and call the meeting to order at 5:32. Going to do roll call off the list here on the agenda. Member Ali Medina.
Present.
Member John Bowders. Not here. Member Scott Donahue.
Here.
Member Diane Martinez.
Present.
Member Christian Patz. Not here. Member Brenda Collins.
Present.
Member Susan Donaldson.
Here.
Member Regina Chagola.
Here, Chagoya, yeah.
Chagoya, thank
Not
you.
good.
Sorry about that.
No, we're learning. Thank you.
Member John Van Geffen. Not here. And member Kimberly Salas. Is that correct?
Yeah, here.
Thank you. Mhm. Next, we have public comment. At this time, I have not received anything and do not see any members of the public that have asked to or raise hands. So go to election of presiding officers. So at this time, there can be a motion to nominate a member from the City Council to oversee the meeting for the May meeting, and then we'd also, at the second part of it would be to nominate a board member from the school district for the November meeting.
I nominate Diane Martinez.
I'll second that nomination.
Okay, we'll go first with the roll call on that, since we have a first and a second for Diane Martinez. Member Ali Medina,
Aye.
member Bowders, I'm not here, sorry, member Donahue,
Aye.
member Martinez,
Aye.
member Pat's not here, member Collins,
Aye.
member Donaldson,
Aye.
member Chagoya,
Aye.
member Salas.
Aye.
Okay, so carries unanimously for Diane Martinez. Can we get a motion for the school district?
I'd like to make a motion for Susan Donaldson.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second, so we'll go roll call. Member Medina,
Aye.
member Donahue,
Aye.
member Martinez,
Aye.
member Collins,
Yes.
member Donaldson,
Aye.
member Chagoya,
Aye.
and member Salas.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously. So I will turn this over to our presiding officer now. Member Martinez.
Thank you, Pedro. Welcome, colleagues, to our biannual meeting. The first item we have up is item 5. This is approval of the November 5th, 2020 regular action minutes. I'll first ask if anyone has any corrections or questions. Brenda?
Hi, no corrections to the agenda, but I just wanted to take a moment to introduce our new board members. It's their first time at the table, if that's okay.
Please do.
Okay, so we have member Kimberly Solis with us, and we have member Regina Chagoy. And they are new to the district and have been very integral and very, it's been good. So welcome, ladies, to the governance committee.
Welcome, Member Solis and Member Chagoya.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no questions or changes to the minutes, I'll be happy to entertain a motion in a second.
And Madam Chair, just for purposes of the vote, to remind the board members that only people who were present at that meeting can vote on those minutes. Thank you.
Thank you for the reminder.
I'll move.
And I'll go ahead and second. So we have a motion by Member Medina and a second by myself. Please call the roll.
Sorry, member Medina.
Aye.
Member Donahue,
Aye.
member Martinez,
Aye.
member Collins,
Yes.
member Donaldson,
Aye.
And I believe the rest were not present, so.
We'll count you as abstentions if that's all right. Okay, so that will take us to item 6, and item 6.1. We have a solar presentation.
Yes, let me, do you want to share your screen, Jody, or do you want me to show it?
Do you mind sharing, and I'll just tell you when to move up on the slide?
Yes, no problem.
Thank you. Okay, well, good evening. I wanted to provide an update on where we're at in the process of bringing solar to the ECCL. We could go to the next slide, please. So I've been, I started off here with, trying to tap into local resources with the city of Emeryville and the Environmental Services Department, holding some meetings on, how do we start off a project like this? From there, I got some good feedback from them, and they also pointed me to the direction of the East Bay Community Energy Group, which I had a couple meetings with them. As far as, like what should we be looking for in a project like this? What's the, the methods out there for procuring projects like this and things like that. So I landed with this company called Sicerco Energy Solutions. And they're a local-based energy contractor that has worked for, as you can see, this is an example here of some of their recent projects that they've done. For instance, Town of Los Gatos, Fremont Unified, Sebastopol Union, etc. And the idea was to, I went through there and kind of vetted out, right, and looked at references from all these people and got really good feedback about Sicerco, and was also able to, to go ahead and make some phone calls to people that actually worked with them. And I didn't find anyone that had anything bad to say about Sicerco. Next, please. And so one of the beauties about a solar energy project is the method of procurement. And there's government code 4217, which allows a public agency to select pre-qualified energy services contractor to design and deliver energy efficiency projects, as long as the anticipated costs for the energy project or efficiency services are less than the anticipated energy cost savings. So we're talking about a self-funding project here. Next, please. So it's basically a 3-phase process that working with a company like Sicerco, and there's 3 kind of methods along the way of being able to meet our goal of providing solar and ultimately going zero net energy at the ECCL. So one of them is to identify energy efficiency opportunities to help reduce our overall electrical load. From there, you go ahead and would be actually the actual work of installing solar. So we're generating our own electricity on site. And then from there, looking into ways to store that electricity in the ways of battery storage and electric vehicle charging. So the idea is that this will all result in operational cost savings to the district. It improves our infrastructure. We're generating our own power. We're reducing our greenhouse gas and carbon emissions. And we're showing leadership to the community by taking on sustainable actions. So next, please. So as far as phase 1 goes, we have completed that portion of the process, which is the preliminary feasibility assessment. And this is where it's important to note that there's been no cost out of pocket thus far. This has all been free to the district up to this point. But the idea behind this portion of or this phase of the process is to basically share our data, energy bills, what have we been spending in the past, CISRCO coming out to make site visits, and then identifying energy reduction opportunities. So looking at different ways we can help reduce that electrical load at the district or at the ECCL. So because of the pandemic, we took data from February of 19 to January of 20. And as you can see here, we have a total electrical cost of about $225,000, upwards of $69,000 for gas, and the total's around $293,000. So that's what we spent on electricity and gas from February 19th to January of 20. It's a typical, from what I understand, there's a typical 5 to 7% increase in the rates that PG&E sends out, PG&E and East Bay Community Energy. So if we take that into account, we're looking at total utilities for this fiscal year 2022, or I'm sorry, 2022, being around $340,000. Next, please. Okay, so now this is the point where we're at now, is the project development process, and which would be considered phase 2. And this is where we get into detailed engineering and look at what the final project would look like. This is the point where we'd be entering an agreement with CISRCO to provide the service through the rest of the project phases, the detailed engineering and the actual project implementation. The process is expected to take about 4 to 5 months. And during that time, that's when we define, the cost of the project and make the decisions on all the available funding sources and how we can suit those to meet our needs. And then also define a detailed project scope and have the findings ready to present to the board for approval. It's important to note too that if we do sign on with CISRCO, that if we decide to go through this phase 2 process and they do all this detailed engineering work, should the district and the city decide not to work with them, there's a break fee for their services that have already been rendered of $25,000. Now, talking with CISRCO, they claim to have not ever had to get to the point where they've not been able to complete a project to where they need to charge that fee. So that's a decent sign for in our case. So the third phase would be to implement the project. Now this is when we go out to construction. CISRCO provides the full construction management services through this process until the project's complete. So they'll be our point person during the construction of all the solar and whatever else we decide to include. They handle the request for quotes and proposals, and they handle the bidding process for us. At the district's and city's discretion, we're able to, we get to award the contract or choose the contractor who wins the contract. It's my understanding that for energy projects like this, that you don't need to just go with the automatic lowest bidder. So given that and potential for, with the construction portion, it's typical that this process takes about 12 to 15 months to get through. So next, please. And as I mentioned before, and I've kind of hinted out, but just briefly touch on this, the idea is to drive down our energy consumption with energy improvements, energy efficiency improvements to reduce our overall electrical load. there's available funding sources for this, such as PG&E's on-bill financing program. There's a Assembly Bill 841 grant program, which kind of relates to HVAC, but then by improving measures on HVAC efficiency, we could start to see those savings there, and potentially tap into this grant program. Or there's also a power purchase agreement, or the use of capital or bond funds, which would come out of our pocket. Identify areas of opportunity that have been identified would be things like retro commissioning HVAC equipment, plug load and PC power management. There's opportunities to improve our controls on our kitchen hood and refrigeration equipment. And then there's finally, we have pretty much most of our lighting at the ECCL is LED, but a lot of our classrooms still have T5 lamps, so there may be an opportunity to convert those to LED as well. And then the idea is to start producing our own electrical with and offset that remaining electrical load with our solar system. And potential funding sources for that, again, is a PPA or capital or bond or a combination of both. Thank you. Okay, so then ultimately, store and charge. Now, speaking with the folks at East Bay Community Energy, this was something that they were really big on. It was to try and get battery storage in for our district. And there's, from what I've understood, there's, the technology for storage has improved. So there's the capability to, add some resiliency to our system, and also some cost savings. So one way I see that is now PG&E has a new pricing rate increase during peak hours, right? So there was an idea of, hey, well, maybe then we could use our battery storage from the hours of 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. to kind of, we're not paying that premium rate for electricity. We're using our storage to do something like, say, keep our field lights powered or things like that. So there's some opportunities there that I have seen. And then also using solar plus batteries for electric vehicle charging. And so that's one of the things I want to look at as we move through this process is, there may not be a need for EV charging at the district now, but perhaps having that infrastructure in place for when there is. So, those are some of the things I'd like to start looking into. And then apparently for funding sources, there's going to be a new on-bill financing program that's coming out soon, just catered to battery storage. And then there's the good old PPA route or the capital or bond route. Next, please. So looking at the solar project now, like where would it go on campus? And so we've identified some areas of opportunity. One is having rooftop solar on our buildings A, C, D, and E. Building E, I know for a fact, has the infrastructure already in place. We have a breaker at our main switch gear that's already identified for solar. So that tells me that we have at least a conduit going back to that switch gear with a breaker on it. So now finding out how it would work on our other rooftops would be something we'll look at during the design process. And then also there's the opportunity for canopy solar in our parking lot on 47th Street. And then there was a thought of, maybe providing, kind of killing two birds with one stone and providing a shade structure for the high school kids or anyone on the community by placing solar canopies down over the lower blacktop area by the field, or maybe something where we could put some bleachers under it at some point. But just wanted to look at the potential for maybe doing something like that. I just wanted to mention too that through our facilities committee, we kind of came to a consensus that we'd like to anything we could see, something like a canopy solar. We would like to try and make it aesthetically kind of in line with the ECCL vision here. So if possible. And as you can see, here's the highlighted areas are some of the areas that have been identified as opportunities for solar. So we have the canopies down in the parking lot, something down here in the blacktop area. There was originally a thought of maybe something closer to the field. I don't know how feasible that is. But then again, you see all the space on building E, there's plenty of room for a lot of panels up there. And we know we have the infrastructure in place. It's a matter of assessing the other 3 building rooftops to ensure that they're structurally able to support and identify, what it would take to put rooftop solar there. Anything on the roof would trigger a DSA review. So that would potentially lengthen the process of the project because it takes a while to go through a review process like that. But, whereas canopy solar is more of a kind of a boilerplate. DSA already has approved plans for their structures and they could just kind of pop them in there. Okay. So as the project potential starts to unfold, we're looking at energy efficiency savings. So looking at a potential of saving about 20% in annual savings. Basically, if Sizergo is estimating that we could potentially save about $68,000 a year, and the savings would be translate to about $680 for the district. So now with that, we want to offset our remaining electrical load, and what would that look like? So we take our 21 total electricity of 260,000, and we reduce that by the 52,000 for the energy efficiency upgrades, and it brings us down to 208,000. Thanks, Pedro. And so looking at our system, what size it may need to be if we're trying to achieve zero net energy. We're estimating roughly a 700 kilowatt system at $3.50 a watt. So bringing us up to a total of around 2.45 million. I do want to point out that this is just this 2.45 million is just for solar only. It does not account battery storage or EV charging. But talking with Sizerco, it's estimated that cost for that would be upwards of between 200 and 500,000. So for battery storage and EV charging. And so just for simplicity's sake, let's take option A. If we wanted to take all our capital and spend it on this 2.5 million, we would look at potentially saving the district 208,000 a year. So we'd be pretty much wiping out our electrical bill. And the disadvantage of going this route is that we would own the equipment and be on the hook for maintaining it, and also replacing equipment if it fails. So that's one of the drawbacks on it, but saving that kind of money off the O&M budget is pretty attractive to me. And then we have option B, and that's where we just power purchase agreement the whole thing, and there's no cost out of pocket, and we're estimating that we're saving about 52,000 a year right off the top of O&M. So with that, we're looking at, that right there is a big savings with no out of pocket cost, and the benefit behind this is that the solar contractor owns the equipment, maintains the equipment, and is responsible for that for, it's typically about 20-25 years. So you get, basically, you're generating your electricity at no cost, and they also have to maintain it and replace it if something goes down. Then there's option C, which is to spend some capital and PPA the rest. So if, the way I see that is like, if we have a target number of savings we're looking for, say we want to save 100K, well, then figure out how much capital we would need to put in, and then PPA the rest to try and achieve that savings in our O&M budget. And then finally, we've got option D, which is a tax exempt lease, which may require capital or may not, but I don't see us heading in that direction. Yeah, with that, that's all I had for this presentation. So if there's any questions, please go ahead.
Great, thank you, Jody. Can we stop sharing the presentation, please? And colleagues, if you'd like to ask any clarifying questions, go ahead and use this raise your hand feature on Zoom, and I will recognize you. No questions about exciting solar storage. Scott, go ahead. Chair recognizes Vice Mayor Donahue.
I guess if I'm looking at this, I'm wondering about how this management company, seems like they have done this a lot, but what do they charge? I didn't see that in the proposal.
Their charge, their cost gets rolled into the project total. So we'll start to see that at the end of the development phase. That will be something you'll see their costs outlined in the presentation once we complete this process. So there's no invoicing directly to the district from Sicerco. It's all rolled up into the project total.
Okay, just further about that, like in a lot of construction management contracts, you'll see they're going to tell you all, Bechtel will say, we'll take this % of the project. It's pretty straightforward. It tells you what their costs are. And I'm a little discouraged that they're not giving a % or some indication of what their costs are.
Yeah, I understand that concern. That would be something that it may have came my way and I may have missed it, but I could definitely go back and find out more on that and get back to you as far as what their fee is, right? In relation to all this. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair recognizes Member Donaldson.
Thank you. Jody, and the slide where you were talking about areas of opportunity for reductions, the retroing the HVAC and the kitchen hood and that sort of thing. Is that stuff that Sicerco handles also, or is that stuff that's just an opportunity for us to deal with someone else?
No, that's kind of the beauty of it. It would be that that's something that they would handle too. We just kind of choose how we want to pay for it, right? And choose which items we want to go for. We may decide, hey, it's not worth going for LEDs in the classrooms, but it's worth going for HVAC retro commissioning because we could take advantage of this AB 841 grant, so. That's the one thing I've learned so far is that there's so many different options. We could pick and choose what suits us the best, so we're not locked into any one thing.
Great, thank you.
Great. Colleagues, are there any other clarifying questions before I go to public comment? Great. I have a few, so please bear with me. Are we currently using, this might be a Dora question, but are we currently using time of use pricing for our electricity bill? Dora, if you're on, feel free to answer if you know.
I don't know. Do you know, Jody? Or Pedro?
We're heading that way. I cannot confirm it. I don't know if there's, thinking back, I've seen letters about the increase
Yes.
coming. I don't believe it has happened yet.
Yeah, and it may or may not be an increase. So I would just ask that between you and Dora, if you, they usually provide actually the analysis on that piece of mail from PG&E. So I know that all of the residential community is going through this right now. So for those of us who live in Emeryville, you should have gotten a letter from PG&E that said that we're all transitioning to time of use, even if you weren't paying that way before. So what that means is you'd be paying more for your electricity between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. And we're all starting to make that transition right now. So I hope that staff takes a look at that and just make sure that we're picking the option that makes the most sense. And I will say, as a recent customer who had solar and battery installed, that time of use, that ability to rely on battery power during 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. is what balances the load, not just for my household, but for the greater county. And that's the more we take advantage of these kinds of flexibilities, the better it is for our bottom line and the better it is for the environment. So my next question.
Yes, we will contact PG&E and find out, because for the residential, I think they even allow you to have a year to see whether you're generating additional costs under this plan.
Yes.
If you do, then you don't have to enroll. So let me find out and get back to the city.
Thanks, Dora. And another thing that they are providing for residential customers is bill protection. So if they move on to time of use and all of a sudden their bill goes way up, even though PG&E provided an analysis that says the opposite, they're planning on covering that for some residential customers at least. So I'm hoping that as a school district, you have the same protection.
All right.
My next question, Jody, you brought up that there might be an opportunity to upgrade some of our exterior electrical to provide for vehicle charging infrastructure. If not now, at least upgrading the panels so we could do that in the future. Would that be part of the package as well, or is that another change in price?
That would be included, I think, in the cost of battery and EV charging, so somewhere in the 200 to 500K range.
Right.
I'd like to see, at least getting the infrastructure in place, right? Getting a pipe in the ground that we can have available tied to a breaker if we want to go that route in the future, and just exploring the different options out there. I mean, we haven't transitioned to electric vehicles here at the district yet. I see maybe a use for public, using it. So there, those are needs I'd like to look into as we move through the process.
And I'm glad you're thinking about it, because I serve as vice chair on the board of East Bay Community Energy. So I'm glad you've connected with them. But there may be opportunities to leverage funds that are intended for infrastructure that's that charging that's available to the public. So if it's in a parking lot that the public can access, you might be able to leverage funds for someone else to pay for it. So just wanted to put that out there. SISRCO should be looking this up as they're helping you, and feel free to stay in touch with those contacts at East Bay Community Energy, because we're all closely watching, what's happening with the directive from the federal government and from the state budget as well, because our leaders have indicated that they are ready to spend on infrastructure, and part of that is electrical charging. So want to be able to spend other people's money as soon as it becomes available.
Gotcha.
So my next question is, if we went the PPA route, is that power purchase agreement with SISRCO, or do we become party to another agreement where they make a solicitation and secure whatever electricity they want? And how renewable is it?
That's a good question. So it's my understanding that the that the solar contractor, right, would be the person on the hook. So they're the person that now owns this system. That's something, the second part of your question is something I'd have to get a better answer on, as far as like how, where this energy is coming from and stuff.
Right. Because, you're definitely going to be using energy outside of what's generated from the system. And I guess, just thinking it through, that just depends on what tier you select at East Bay Community Energy, but we could certainly thread that together and I can find that out from you later.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, here's my question. When we do, if we go this route and we do a power purchase agreement, I want to know if we get a guaranteed rate for the duration for the life of the solar panels, in terms of how much we're paying for the electricity generated. And I want to know if we get any of the advantages that net energy metering customers get. So colleagues, if someone has solar on their house, there's a true up, and those periods of time are changing, but there's a true up like every month, at least every year, where you would receive a check in the mail for all those times that you overgenerated. And everyone in California is overgenerating between the hours of 12 and 4 all summer. So I would want to know if there's any specificity, if there's any room for additional benefit, because as Vice Mayor Donahue brought up, there's room for them to make a lot of money. And I kind of understand, and I kind of get that that's the game. If they can get by with the least accountability possible, if the government is saying, hey, as long as it's paying for itself, you guys make all you want. And I don't know what that situation leads to, but there are definitely a lot of wins in this scenario. So I don't know if you have those answers on NEM, Jody, and I'm happy to hear them at a future date, or just a simple email.
Sure, I could follow up. I do remember it being mentioned that the rate stays the same. So whatever rate we sign up for now, that's the rate throughout the duration. So.
Great.
And I could follow up with you on the rest.
Perfect. So Member Donaldson, I still see your hand up. I'm wondering if it's from your first question. Okay, you're good. And if I'm not seeing any other clarifying questions, I'd like to offer a moment of public comment. If there are any members of the public joining us, if you're joining via Zoom, you would use the raise hand feature. If you're calling in, you would press *9. And I'll check in with our staff. Pedro, has anyone emailed in public comment through the link on the agenda?
I've not received any emails.
Okay, and not seeing any raised hands from members of the public. I'll bring it back to my colleagues for discussion. Does anyone want to kick it off? We've got options A, B, and C, or option D, and I believe staff is looking for some direction. Member Donahue.
I just think we need to get at least one additional company involved in construction management, just so we can compare pricing and services. And this company that you have been involved with seems really good in that they've completed all these other projects. That's excellent. But still, we need to be able to do some comparison. It just seems to me to move forward. And, we got to get some additional take on it.
Chair recognizes City Manager Daniel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Chair Martinez. I'm not sure that we're asking the governance committee to make a selection of the options tonight. I would ask Mr. Clark for confirmation of that. If we are, I need to talk about the way that the capital outlay would be paid for, because that's not something that has been thoroughly discussed. And I think we need to have a much deeper conversation about that, if that's what Mr. Clark is asking the board to make a decision about tonight.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you, Christine. No, I think at this point, we really need to to take a deep look into how it would look if we go the PPA route, how it would look if we go the capital or bond funding route, and find something that come up with the ideal situation and scenario that we could then come back and present to the board. I think that's kind of what the goal of this is just to give you the information of where we're at now, take into consideration your comments, and get back to Member Donahue with his answers, and Mayor Martinez, and maybe have some discussion throughout this process here and there, if possible, about how we're going, right? Because I know capital expense, from the city's point of view, there's concerns about tapping into capital. So we need to look at this in a little bit more detail, I think, at this point, rather than deciding on an option at this meeting.
Thank you, Jody. I apologize for mischaracterizing what staff needs. And Chair recognizes Member Donaldson.
Member Donahue, I believe that in terms of deciding what contractor to go with in the construction, that we ultimately choose that Sizerco, they're only managing the process, but we ultimately decide on which, we'll get bids and we'll review them and then we decide. Right, Jody?
Right. So, I mean, Sizerco, they're managing the project development portion if we decide to move forward with this phase. From there, the implementation portion, when the project goes out to bid, they'll handle that bidding process for us, but then it's the district has the leeway to choose the contractor from there who actually puts the solar on our facilities.
Very good. Are there any further discussion from my colleagues? So would you agree, Jody, that you would just like a thumbs up to go forward, to continue with this work? Because, we've definitely brought up solar many times in the past, and just want to know, get you what you need in terms of direction.
Well, I mean, so I'm feeling good about where we are. I would love a thumbs up. If there's hesitancy on that because Member Donahue wants to see something else, I'm happy to get that info his way before that happens. But ultimately, yeah, I would like to move forward and start get the process going and get some solar on our buildings.
Very good. City Manager Daniel, I saw you, but I'm going to call on Member Medina first, and then Scott, I'll get to you last.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I support moving forward and exploring our options with payment methods, but yeah, would like to see like a really robust financial modeling breakdown before we make a selection about potential capital or bond outlay. But yeah, really supportive of the direction of putting solar on these buildings.
Very good. City Manager Daniel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think really what we were looking for tonight was whether the governance committee was interested in pursuing this with Sizerco. There is a potential cost if they don't meet the objectives, as Mr. Clark outlined in one of the initial slides. It's relatively modest. It's about $25,000, if I recall correctly. And so that would be really what we're notifying the governance committee of, is that is a potential cost. But really it's getting to the ultimate solution and using their resources to bring that back to you once those analyses have been done.
Very good. Thank you. Member Donahue.
I'm very positive about moving in this direction for our shared facilities with the school district. I think it's really good and necessary and important that we go that way. All I wanted is just more clarity on their costs for their construction management, and also some competitive bidding for construction management. Maybe there's other companies too that would say, look, we would like to also consider doing some proposals. Here at our artists co-op, all of the designs for our future solar on one of our buildings were provided for free by 3 differing companies, because they are all competing for their, not just their design and construction management, but they want, of course, build the whole thing. So they're kind of motivated. So what we're doing with this, by hiring a construction management company, is good, because we can select and choose at the end what system we're going to buy and who's going to build it and all. But on the other hand, they've just got to be more transparent about their costs going forward.
I would just check in with Jody to see what our timeline is on this. If we wait, well, Scott, I will note that we only meet twice a year. So if we ask Jody to come back with information, it's going to be 6 months from now. If we don't honestly feel that Sizer-Co is the right agency to perform this function. But Jody, I want to give you a chance to just talk about the evaluative process you used in selecting Sizer-Co, your knowledge of other agencies out there that do the same work, knowing that it's very specialized, tailoring to school districts and very large areas. So Jody, I'd love for you to tell us how you came to select Sizer-Co.
Well, it was mainly, I had an initial meeting with them, and we were asking them, why should we go with you, right? And then I got sent back probably a dozen reference letters that were pretty much describing a good experience with working with them, and projects just seamlessly happening throughout the whole process, which was very attractive to me. And then I actually reached out to, I had some interviews with a couple of agencies that had worked with them in the past. One was the town of Los Gatos, and one was Santa Rosa City Schools. So I called those project managers and asked them just in detail, how was it working with them through this process? And they both had nothing but good things to say. And so with that, I mean, that's where I felt the most comfortable with. I've heard of others, like Siemens is out there. I know there's a lot of companies that can perform this service, right? So, but I was just immediately, attracted by just the amount of positive feedback I got from other people that have worked with this firm. So that's how I came to land on this.
Thank you. So colleagues, what it sounds like is, do we feel comfortable with this process with Joe? And it certainly is above board. This is within our right to just select a company that's going to do this within the guidelines set forth by the state? Or do we need to see a competitive RFP or RFO for this? And of course, that would set us back considerably in time, I believe, because we would need another meeting to even get that set up. Then we would have to issue an RFO. Then we would have to discuss the review of the applications. Member Donahue.
I would feel comfortable saying yes, go ahead, if the combined staff of the city manager and the superintendent were to review this company's fees, and if they feel comfortable that these fees are within a market range that is established and that everything checks out, then I could say, yeah, go ahead. So, I feel like our staff would be able to look and evaluate, but it just seems like, we gotta, I mean, we can give the general thumbs up, but to actually,
I get that. Sounds like a great idea, Scott. I trust our executive staff very much, and I trust Jody as well. So I would just look to see if there's any objection to Member Donahue's approach. Great. I think that's a really good middle road for us to keep on the right track and just keep going. And if there's any news to deliver on the appropriateness or not appropriateness of the fees being charged by Sizer Co., that will get reported back to us. And remember, I think Jody kind of touched on this, that we can start going down the road. And if something goes very much awry, we could still pull out just for that kind of deposit that we're putting in. So thank you, colleagues. We're going to go ahead and move to our next item. And I think this is you again, Jody.
Yeah.
So I hope you had a sip of water while I was talking.
Yes.
We're moving on to the CMMS, Computerized Maintenance Management System, Facility Conditions Assessment, Capital Forecasting. Take it away, Jody.
I know that was a mouthful. So, okay, so here I'd like to start talking about modernizing the ECCL facilities maintenance and capital planning. So here's another situation where I've gone through a process of vetting out different vendors that provide computerized maintenance management software. I've had meetings with probably 4 or 5 different firms, and I landed with this company, Dude Solutions, who's they originally started out as called School Dude, where they focus just on education industries, and they just education industries only, but they've since changed their name to Dude Solutions, where they've incorporated other agencies. And as you can see, they have in California, they have some public 382 public K through 12 schools that they take care of, and overall they're claiming to have about 50% of the serve about 54% of the student population in California. Next, please. And as you could see, there's a lot of districts that are in our county network and local here too that that work with Dude Solutions for their maintenance management software. So what would they be? What are we asking for this company to do for us? So basically, there's a need to move in the direction I feel strongly of, is to have a computer, CMMS for short, that can handle our operations and work orders and things. I'll get into that in a moment, but basically what they'd be able to do for us is get this off the ground in a relatively short amount of time. And it would also kind of tie into our capital planning, which I'll get into a little bit later too. So basically they'd be out to perform a facility condition assessment with one of their third-party engineering firms. From that assessment, we'll then know, the condition of our assets and systems on the buildings, and be able to create a registry of those assets, which could then, once we have the registry, we know what the equipment we have, we can then start, putting together a preventive maintenance schedule that we could follow. And one of the things I liked about Dude Solutions was that they provide end user training and support throughout the implementation process, and also ongoing. I found a lot of companies, they'll give you about a year of support, and then they'll want to charge you down the road for that support as needed. And then finally, implementing the software. So helping us get this off the ground so we could start using it now. And I'll just go through some of the benefits of the CMMS. We'd be able to better efficiently manage our operations at ECCL. We'll be able to easily track work orders and tasks that are assigned. We can really start diving into preventive maintenance programs and predictive maintenance programs. We can then see where we've been spending money on a particular asset, right? And we could utilize the data from this software to help extend the life of some of our assets, hopefully. And then obviously optimizing our resourcing and communication, you know, between staff. It makes it a little easier to communicate if you just have a work order pop up. Additionally, be able to create reports that are able to, we're able to make better data-driven decisions. So we could look at, you know, how much have we been spending on this particular asset, you know? Does it make sense to keep spending on it, or does it make sense to replace it? This was a big one, is to maintain the institutional knowledge and records in the event of staff turnover in the maintenance department. So one of the big challenges when I came on board was not having any of that data, right? I was shocked at some of the repairs that were needed at year 4, you know, as I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, this is a 4-year-old school. Why are we experiencing these failures? I had no idea. So with something like this, we can now have a system that's in place that could just be followed no matter who's you know, in the maintenance department. Finally, we can hopefully reduce maintenance costs and extend the life of our assets, and then reduce our reactive maintenance. So from that, the next step of the process would be to perform a facilities condition assessment, and you'll probably ask, why should we do that after 5 years? And the big one is that we've already experiencing a lot of premature failures that have been quite costly. From the assessment, we'll also be able to create a database of all of our assets, which I mentioned earlier. We'll be able to gather the information on the current condition of our assets, and we can easily implement and start using the CMS now. Here's a list of some of the unexpected expenditures that came up on the O&M side this year. As you can see, it was touching about $35,000. The majority of these were related to HVAC systems. So as you can see, there's some pretty costly ones in there. These valve bodies on the fan coils for $7,000. Those are something that I feel may be an ongoing thing because of the value engineering that was done on the HVAC system. Things aren't, you know, they're failing premature, basically. But just to give you a snapshot of kind of the expenses we incurred. This was kind of the big selling point to me with going with Dude Solutions. I couldn't find another company that offered this sort of capital forecasting tool. So this is another side that it's separate from the CMMS, but it's also integrated with it. So as you're inputting data to the CMMS, it will send it to the capital forecasting portion, and be able to, you know, we start to be able to accurately predict the health of our building systems and assets, and even the future health of them. Also, asset life cycle modeling. So looking at when we may need to replace a certain piece of equipment. We've got cost benefit analysis tools in there too. And then be able to communicate the decisions with our data and visualizations across the roles. So we'd be able to show the board stuff and upper management. Dude Solution utilizes industry standard American Society for Testing and Materials, the Uniformat 2 for their categorization. They have a national prevailing industry standard to model costs and for estimating costs. They claim to maintain and update their cost estimating system with actual information received from the field. And also they keep, current cost data from progress, in progress construction projects that are happening now. Next one, please. Capital expenditures. So this is what we have spent in the capital reserve since 2016. And as you can see, we have a couple big ticket items that were unforeseen. We lost our boiler, pumps had failed. Same with the heat exchanger for the pool. We decided to purchase a window washing equipment to help save on contractor and on subcontracting that out with a contractor for window cleaning. And then also we've spent almost $8,000 to replace our pool covers, which are typically going to last you from between 5 to 7 years. And we've seen, obviously they've lasted about 5. And there's a missing box here, but I'll get to that soon. So as we look at it now, you see the we started off with $100,000 in the reserve for that was meant to go for an anti-graffiti coating at year 5. Now we decided to forego that coating, mainly because there was not really a need for it. We don't see much of a graffiti problem there. And we also typically don't want to put a coating over a 5-year-old paint job. So with that, we're left with $100,000 in the capital reserve. The total expenditures, as the previous slide showed, totaled $38,000. So we're sitting on a remaining balance in there right now of $62,000. And I wanted to note that after this, for fiscal year 2022 is when the contributions increase for both the city's share and for the district share. So after by 2022, we'll be looking at a balance of around $335,000. Okay, so how would this impact, the budgets? And so what we're looking at, this is for Dude Solutions portion of helping us to get to where we can have our CMMS and our capital forecasting tool. Basically, we're looking at $24,000 for the customized facility conditions assessment. And what I'm doing is I had them estimate this that was kind of tailored to match what was on our original capital replacement schedule. So when they first came to me, they had kind of boilerplate building systems that they said they would assess and include in the project. But I wanted to be more in line with what we had on the capital replacement schedule. So I asked them to include things like, let's look at the pool equipment, let's look at the turf, let's look at the fencing, let's kind of look at as much as what's on that original spreadsheet for capital replacement as possible. And then just to pay for the service to have them create the schedule for preventive maintenance, the capital forecasting and the CMMS is about $5,000. So we're looking at about $30,000 total for to get us off the ground for year 1. With an annual recurring fee after this of about $4,800, which includes the annual fee for the CMMS and for capital forecasting. So here's where we were just, there's 2 ways to pay for it. One is going with O&M, one is going with capital. And so I wanted to point out what it would look like if we utilize capital funding to move forward with this. Basically, with the $30,000 cost and a remaining balance in there of of 62,000, we'd be looking at sitting on a remaining balance of about 30,000 to get us to that point in fiscal year 22 where the contributions increase. And you could see down below what those contributions would be. And if we decide to allocate this to the O&M budget, it's a one-time fee of the 30,000 that would go to our contracted services directly out of the O&M budget. I think that's all I got. So please ask any questions.
Thank you, Jody. Colleagues, it looks like Member Medina has a question. I'll recognize you.
Thanks so much. Would this be used just for this site, or would this management software be used for multiple sites?
I'm looking at, so this would be used at multiple sites, but the pricing you're looking at reflects ECCL only. So I wanted to point that out. I would be interested, well, let me just leave it at, yeah, this is everything you saw here is just for ECCL. But by other sites, I think you may be meaning our other district-owned sites. The plan is to separate those costs.
Thank you. I saw a hand from Member Donahue.
Yes, is this company made up of not just accountants, but actual people with facilities experience, so they can actually evaluate exactly what we have?
So the evaluation is done by a third-party engineering firm. So Dude Solution does not have, facilities engineers on their staff. They subcontract out to a third party. That would be the firm that comes in and does the assessment, the professionals that are, that do condition assessment. So that's where we'd be getting our condition assessment data from. It's not coming from Dude Solutions.
Okay.
Chair recognizes Member Donaldson and Kashi.
I was wondering, sort of similarly to Ally, what does the city use any kind of management software program like this for any of their properties?
Mayor Medina, I can take that. We actually have something similar, Member Donaldson. It's a product that we are actually in the middle of implementing right now called Lucidity. And we haven't fully, Mr. Clark will remember this because when he worked with us, we were trying to do it. We're getting there. What it does not have, it's a work order management, asset management system, but it doesn't come with the additional feature that this does, which is to subcontract with the engineering firm to do the facilities assessment.
Right. Okay. We're at questions phase, right?
Correct. Clarifying questions. Member Collins?
So I don't have a question, but I have a statement. I am on this system at my job, and it's amazing. Throughout the whole city and county of San Francisco, we use that system. And it was cool, dude, when I first started using it.
Oh, really?
I'm trying to get used to the new name. But yes, I would highly recommend us implementing this system for the ECCL.
Very good. Thank you, Member Collins. I'm just going to take a brief pause, colleagues, to see if anyone has submitted public comment on this or any other items later in the meeting. Mr. Jimenez?
I have not received anything.
Thank you. And I'll remind viewers that if you're joining via Zoom, use the raise hand feature to be recognized, or if you're calling in, press *9. And bringing it back for discussion, Jody, what direction do you need from us this evening?
This was just informational only. No direction really. I think the biggest question in my mind is where do we pay for this, right? Does it come out of O&M or does it come out of our capital? And And so that's the question in my mind right now.
City Manager Daniel.
Sure. Martinez, if I could just, that actually is something that we would like the governance committee to weigh in on this evening. And just want to speak a little bit about the capital budget for ECCL, just to remind members who've been participants for a while and bring the new folks up to speed. When the facility was created, there was a capital budget that was identified, a capital replacement budget, and it's part of the joint operating agreement between the district and the city. And each agency contributes to that reserve each year. For the first 5 years of the operation of the facility, the collections totaled, as Mr. Clark mentioned, $100,000. In the capital replacement reserve schedule, that dollar amount was identified to be spent on graffiti coating, resistant coating, which, as Mr. Clark just noted, was never installed. And because of the unanticipated capital needs, the things that failed much earlier than I think anybody would have expected things to fail, the district had to spend some of those capital dollars on other things that needed to be addressed within the first 5 years. And so while those weren't on the capital replacement schedule, they needed to be paid for. And so those funds were drawn down. That leaves the, what was it, Jody, 68,000?
62?
62,000 in the capital replacement budget right now that can be accessed to purchase, to pay for the initial costs of this system. And then the $4,800 a year maintenance could come from this, or could come from the operations and maintenance budget. So if we wanted to increase the operations and maintenance budget, that's the other alternative. That's the annual budget that is contributed to by both agencies. That was not budgeted for this year. So that's not included in what were anticipated expenditures either by the district or by the city for the current fiscal year. So that's, to my mind, that's really, as Jody said, the presenting issue. I think we're confident. I don't want to speak for Dr. Scott, but she'll jump in and interrupt me, I'm sure. But at our admin committee, we spent a lot of time talking about this, and we're confident in the value of a system like this for the facility. It really is just a question of where the governance committee is comfortable drawing the funds from to pay for that cost. Did I miss anything, Dr. Scott? All right.
You covered it all. Thank you, City Manager Daniel.
So I'll put something out there, folks. I'm comfortable with using those capital funds for the initial capital outlay, and then having the annual fees being taken care of in our O&M. I don't think we need to unnaturally kind of boost that O&M budget, because I don't want to get pegged to that number and spend that every year. I think using the one-time funds is wise, although I do hope, to see that fund robust again in the future, because, it's those failures are going to happen more and more frequently as the facilities age. So if I don't see any objections, we can move forward in that direction. Is there any further discussion? Okay. So does staff have the direction that they need? Very good. Thank you. That'll take us to our next item. And please bear with me while I scroll back on my agenda. This is an update on third-party rental revenue. And I'm sure you all have seen masked soccer players on our field, which makes me very, very happy. And I'll turn it over to Pedro for the report.
Thank you. In your packet, there was a report, and I wrote a little information about it. Originally, pre-COVID, we were hoping to be around $260,000 in revenue. Of course, due to COVID, we are now estimating about $75,000, maybe 80. We do have actually some church groups that want to start up again, so that actually could help us increase that number. So you might see them, actually, we do have one group that's starting this weekend, and the potential second group that might be starting next weekend. So that should help our numbers. Now, most of these, the 75,000 was really the field and the pool rentals, all the pool rentals we were doing and the field rentals. So, hopefully, I could see another 10, I could say. So I think we're definitely going to hit our mark, and if not, maybe even a little better by June 30th. So that's the estimation for this year. For next year, we are going to be estimating about 150,000. But if these church groups stay and continue, then I think we can do a lot better than that too. So we can get back to a closer number that we had before. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I also want to introduce Rebecca Sormeno, who's on here. She's our new recreation supervisor. She is supporting all the facility rentals, aquatics, and events. So some of you that knew Brad Helfenberger, who was our manager before, she's taken on some of those roles, and I've taken on some of the other stuff. So she's here to support ECCL and all the rentals, and you'll be seeing her out there. So if you have any questions, she'd be happy to answer them in future meetings.
Thank you, Pedro, and welcome, Rebecca. Go ahead, City Manager Daniel.
Sorry to interrupt. If I could just add for the new board members, just wanted to explain the importance of the facility rental revenue to the structure of the relationship. So there's an operations and maintenance budget for the ECCL facility, and the city staff manages the facility rentals, and the revenue from those rentals offsets the costs of operations and maintenance. So it reduces effectively the amount that each agency has to contribute. So the more facility rental there is, then the costs to each agency are reduced. So 2 years ago, Pedro, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we yielded about 311,000 in revenue that was then contributed to O&M. And so that's what we're trying to target and achieve in the future, is every dollar in then offsets an O&M cost. So thank you, Mayor Martinez. I just wanted to explain that a little bit.
No, that's a really, really good point that you made. And so it's good to remember what the purpose of the rentals for, and that it's good for the city and it's good for the district when we have people, when we share our facility. And really, truly, that was the intention, I think, was to get people active in that space. So colleagues, with your indulgence, I will check to see if there's any public comment. Attendees, if you are attending via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function to be recognized. Or if you're calling in, please press *9, and I'll just check in with Mr. Jimenez to see if any electronic comment cards have come in for this item.
I have not received any.
Okay, seeing none. Colleagues, is there any more discussion on this update? Nope, thank you. I will move that to our next item. This is the summer school and summer camp programs at ECCL.
Yes, I'd like to actually introduce Kristen Gray, our recreation supervisor who oversees youth services. She has been doing a great job of managing COVID and pivoting and making programs safely happen here on site for families that needed care during COVID. And so I'll turn it over to her for a presentation. I'll share the screen.
All right, thank you, everybody. Yeah, I have like the best job of all time. I get to hang out with kids all day and see their beautiful faces. And they have been really resilient this year and powerful, and they've taught me a lot in their strength over the last year. So we're going to go over some programs that we did in 2020 and continue into 2021. The first we did was Camp Safe. And before we were able to come back in person, we were doing some online stuff for kids, doing wellness checks and communicating to Ms. Carter and Ms. Adelot around student needs when we were doing those wellness checks. And when we got the green light to come back on campus in June, we did a Camp Safe summer activities for essentials. So at that time, we were really restricted to essential workers. So we had a lot of families that worked in medical care, a lot of police officers, fire, and it was a really great experience. And then we have some information on that. So we served 64 TK through 8th graders overall throughout the summer. A lot of those kids were brand new to our program, but they were residents. And so it was a good opportunity to meet some new families. We had 7 families on sliding scale and 2 subsidy families, and that they weren't 100% NE students. That's a error, but a lot of them were in Yates families. So it was just a really great summer meeting new families over the time. Our design was really straightforward. We followed a lot of public health and CDE guidelines for our kids and for our staff. That was really important to families, that were really clear on how we were going to keep their kids safe. We had breakfast, we had opening circles, we had socially distanced camp cheers, and then we did 50-minute in-class rotations around art, food, crafts, STEM activities, outside play, garden, wellness, drama, and we incorporated some academic fun because, as we know, the end of the last school year was on Zoom. And so we wanted to not only address Summer Slide as we normally do, but also just have some really great review so that, when they went back to school, it was great. And then we moved into the school year, and that is distancing at Anna Yates. So we're serving about 48 TK through 8th graders over the year. 33 of those kids are Emeryville residents, 26 are Anna Yates students. We're serving an additional 10 schools. So if you can imagine that little square of schedules times 10 schools, but then within those schools, there's several teachers. And so it's been a jigsaw puzzle, but our kids are sweet and they try and they're patient. Our families are patient with us. We have 20 families on sliding scale and 2 subsidy families that we're supporting. And then our numbers continue to grow every week. Oh, next slide. So our program design is very similar on our health and safety protocols. We keep groups separate in different pods. They don't ever intersect. We have our opening circles in the morning. It's almost all academic Zoom time. So all of our kids are right there in their tablets. And something new that's just started was midday drop off. So a lot of surrounding schools are going back in person. So we have an onslaught of students coming midday to do their rec, which is like our thing. So they end their program with us at 5:30. We do break, we do lunch and snack, and then we do enrichment time in the afternoon, and then we close like normal. So every year we work towards being one of the best after school programs and youth programs in the world. And that takes a lot of energy and time and patience and training and staff development. And so our quality improvement goals haven't changed. We want to make sure that our staff are providing a really great learning environment for our young people. We're talking a lot around diversity, access, and equity, academic support, and how we're integrating with EUSD on those resources that they have. They've been amazing. We have intentional enrichment activities to address social emotional learning and where our young people are at this particular time. And we're just always sharing a shared language around what program quality means to us and how we translate that to our families through surveys and through data. All right, so our partners, we're really happy that our partnerships didn't go down this year. We added Alameda County Food Bank, not we, I think is a collective with EUSD and the city, to have the food bank here a couple of times a week, and hopefully, depending on need, we'll continue that in the summer. Science Ventures for Girls continues to be a big hit with our kids. And we actually start doing Kala Arts all virtual twice a week. And it's just been really solid having them provide enrichment activities for our kids. Next one. All right, upcoming program. Summer is coming. Y'all ready for summer? Yeah? No, yeah. Okay, I'm ready for summer. It's summer camp. We got the pool is back. So yes, Rebecca's been there. Like I've been greeting. I was like, I want two slots for the summer. So we're working out summer. We're gonna go on some local field trips and making sure that we follow health and safety concerns through those field trips. We're discussing ways to partner with EUSD on creating some type of program to encourage families to go to summer school. We want to make sure that families have care after summer school is over and actually supplement summer school with enrichment activities. So that's in the works. Hopefully we can do that. And we're hoping to bring the Leaders in Training program back for Emory. Hi, Adeline. She's like, I know that voice. I know that voice. For the 9th and 10th graders, we unfortunately had a super big drop in our middle school enrollment. So a lot of our new 9th graders are asking about the LIT program, which it's cool to see them in wanting that role. And we're launching next year's registration at the end of the month. And that's exciting because just thinking about next year being in person is just very exciting for all of us. We also have some smaller projects around garden renovations and, you know, creating an outside space in classrooms that teachers can use and the public can use. And yeah, so we're rocking and rolling. We had a lot of great events this year as well. The bunny hop, the movies, and so we're very thankful that even though we had a lot of trying moments this year, we had a lot of smiles this year as well.
Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah.
My family benefits directly from all of the services and all of the pivoting that you and your staff have done this year. So colleagues, I will turn to you to see if there are any clarifying questions for staff on this report. Okay, seeing none, I want to make sure I give an opportunity to the public. If you're joining us by Zoom, please use the raise hand feature to be recognized for public comment. If you're calling in, please press *9. And I am not seeing any attendees who are requesting to speak, and I'm getting a head shaking no that there are no electronic comments. So I'll bring it back for discussion. Colleagues, does anyone wish to talk? Member Medina.
I just wanted to quickly thank you for all of the work and your colleagues have put in over this last year. You've provided an extremely vital service to Emeryville families and children. You know, I've been literally going crazy sitting inside here with a laptop, and you guys have been out there making sure that kids have the resources they need. So just a deep thank you to the work that you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll relay that to the staff. And I mean, Pedro, just like the most supportive. And so, yeah, definitely not doing it in a vacuum. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Member Medina, and thank you, Kristen. Seeing no further comments, I'll just add to Member Medina's comments. I think what you do has cascading positive implications in terms of affecting the mental health of the kids that you are supporting each day, which supports families. So we can go out and be productive and serve on city councils or do whatever it is we all do during the day. So thank you, deep debt of gratitude for for you and all of the programs that you put on in the last year. So colleagues, we will move on to the 6.5, the day program presentation.
Probably was the same thing.
It was the same.
I put it all, you know, I want,
Sorry.
you know, this is
I mixed
a
them
Thursday
up.
night. I put it all together for you all.
I thought that as I was reading it. All right. Well, thank you. That will bring us to the fund finance portion of our meetings. We'll start off with.
Actually, real quick, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I did mix something up. So this part is kind of sharing what the school is doing. Dr. Scott, do you want to talk about summer school and what's happening? I apologize. And then the space that we are going to be using, we're sharing, you know, when summer camp starts and we're utilizing classrooms, they're going to be utilizing their classrooms and we're trying to balance out uses there. So.
Great, thank you. Dr. Scott, please take it away. And I apologize if I skipped over you.
Thank you, no worries. After coming after Ms. Gray and her enthusiasm, this is going to be definitely challenging. I do want to also echo a big thanks to Ms. Gray and her team, along with Pedro. We've had a conversation today with regards to a student that we had in the extenuating circumstances that the family was facing. And Ms. Gray just stepped right in to assist. And we're so forever grateful for that. And the parents are as well. So just, it's great to be able to partner in this work. As we wanted to share with regards to Emory, we're also excited to offer in-person summer school program. The district will have 3 programs that will be focused on math and literacy for TK-8 students. We'll also have a high school credit recovery program in our extended school year for our students who are receiving special education services. The summer school dates will be held from June 21st through June 22nd for our students. We'll also have our staff here to June 23rd. The classes will be held from Monday through Thursday between the hours of 8:30 a.m. to noon. And our teachers will have collaboration on Fridays. We will also continue to adhere to the Alameda County Public Health Department and the CDC guidelines, such as daily health screenings, making sure everyone's wearing masks and social distancing. We anticipate that there will be a use of about 15 classrooms between the 3 programs. With social distancing, we anticipate about 15 students per class. So that'll be about 225 students at most in our program. We're certainly excited. We're thinking about acceleration for learning, but we're also thinking about the whole child and the social emotional pieces. So we want to offer enrichment programs for our students as well. We're partnering with People's Conservatory. We're also partnering with our the city programs with Ms. Gray. Some of the programs that we're bringing out forward for our students are art, drama, hip hop, coding. High school will have an internship opportunity with the tech department. We're also going to have a time for this, which will be after the summer program. So it'll be between 12:30 to 2:30 approximately. Ms. Gray had mentioned today that we had quite a few students that were shared by Dr. Kell, that we have about 40 students, I think she said, who are interested in drama already. So not only are we thinking about it for the summer school program, but also perhaps during after school program during the regular school year. So we're certainly excited about this opportunity, and all this information is located on our website. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, are there any questions on this great presentation? Let me go ahead and use the raise your hand feature. All right, seeing none, I will check and see if there is any public comment. I'll remind members of the public that this is, if you're in Zoom, please use the raise hand feature to be recognized. And if you're calling in, please press *9. I don't see any hands raised at this time. I'll check in with staff to see if anyone has emailed in a public comment card.
No, I have none at this time.
Thank you. And seeing no further comments, if there's no more discussion from the board, I will just thank you for all of the last minute planning that you had to do to make all of this come together, and appreciate the district for putting together the summer school program. That now will take us to item 7.1. This is approval of the O&M budget for fiscal year 2021, the mid-year adjustments and capital.
Good evening, school council members and school board members. This evening, we will be looking at the fiscal information on the operational and maintenance budget. Actually, for items 7.1 and 7.2, they can actually go together, because 7.1, we are talking about current year, which is 2021. And 7.2 is we are looking into the next year O&M budget, the 21-22. So both of them are actually so on the same spreadsheet that you're looking at right now. On this spreadsheet that you're looking at, the first item, for those ones that are new seeing the spreadsheet, the first column is a brief description, what you're going to see. And then the second column, we are looking into the 18-19 years. And then the next one is the 19-20 fiscal year. But our main emphasis for this evening is actually looking into the current year, which is 2021, and also next year, 21-22. So now let's start with the 2021. You will see on this spreadsheet showing you the original budget that we adopted in July of 2020. And then the first interim budget, which is the picture that taken as of October 31st, 2020, that's the first interim budget revision. And then the following item is the second interim budget, which is the cutoff is the January 31st, 2021. And then now we are making a projection into the O&M budget, how we're going to close as of June 30th, 2021. And this is the item, this is the column we're going to look at, which is the estimated actuals. So basically, we are projecting to receive about $1.25 million on this budget. And it includes the city share of the 29% and also the school share of the budget, 71%. And also, as Pedro mentioned before, $75,000 will be projected to coming in from the third-party rental to help the O&M budget. So, and then the bottom part of the spreadsheet is giving you the breakdown of the expenditures. So before we look at the next year, do we have any questions that you want to ask regarding anything on the estimated actuals for this school year?
Colleagues, are there any questions on the estimated actuals? I don't see any hands raised, Dora, so please continue.
Okay, all right, so now, after we are done estimating the closeout of the O&M budget, then we now try to develop the next school year O&M budget for 21-22. So basically, assuming that we are back in full in-person instruction and our facilities is open up, so we are projecting to receive about $150,000 on the third-party rental, okay? And also the expenditures, basically you will see because of the second column and also the salary settlement, you're expecting to see the classified salaries a little bit increase from the $223,000 to $225,000 for next school year. And then the $5,000 is the overtime budget. The $25,000 is the custodian sub budget. And then you see the $139,000 is basically is the maintenance director and my portion of keeping track of the O&M budget. And then the rest of them, you will see basically a little bit increase on the PBIP, which is from $30,000 to $31,000. And the rest of them, basically they are similar to what we adopted this school year back in July. Because of the pandemic, you will see actually on the closing, we are actually about only 90% of what we budgeted back in July 2020 because of the pandemic and because of the schools closure. But for next year, we are back in a normal school year. So that's why most of the expenditure items that you see for next year are pretty well aligned to what you see when you approved it, the original budget back in July 2020. So any questions on the preliminary budget for next school year?
Colleagues, any questions on the budget for 21-22? I don't see any hands raised, Dora.
Great. And then Pedro, if you go down, because I think we attached two different reports with this spreadsheet. So whoever that want to see all the details of what happened in this school year. So the first one that you're looking at is a summary report for what happened for this year in 2021 on the O&M budget. And then started on the next page. This is the detailed fiscal report, and I think it consists of about 38 pages. On this report, you will see exactly who we paid to, on what day, how much that we pay, and what is it for. So this is a detailed fiscal report that you can see exactly when we pay the payment, who we paid to, and what we are paying the payment for. So that's about 38 pages. So those two attachments are attached to the worksheet that you just saw.
Thank you, Dora. We did receive that.
Okay. That's about what I'm going to cover this evening for everybody.
Very good. Would staff please stop sharing screen? And with that, colleagues, if you'll indulge me, I'm just going to take care of public comment off the top. Pedro, have there been any electronic submittals?
No, I have not received any.
Thank you. And members of the public, if you are joining us from home, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Or if you are dialing in, please press *9 to raise your hand and be recognized. Okay, I'm not seeing any folks who wish to speak, so we'll bring it back. We've got 2 items to consider. The first is item 7.1. This is the approval of the O&M budget for fiscal year 2021 with mid-year adjustments and capital. Colleagues, do we have any discussion? If not, I'm happy to entertain a motion accepting the budget and a second.
I move acceptance of 2021's budget.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Member Donahue and a second from Member Collins. And colleagues, seeing no further discussion, may I ask staff to take the roll, please?
Member Medina,
Aye.
Member Donahue,
Aye.
Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Collins,
Yes.
Member Donaldson,
Yes.
Member Chagoya,
Yes.
Member Salas.
Yes.
All
Okay.
yes.
Passes unanimously among those present. So that'll move us to item 7.2. This is approval of the O&M fiscal year 21-22 budget and capital. Does anyone have any questions? Member Donaldson, the chair recognizes you.
Just a reminder, just a reminder of when we would recognize any savings from the solar project. 24, 25?
You generally start seeing the savings as soon as PG&E lets you turn it on. So
still, that would be 23, 20,
A year project, right, Jody? I think.
Yeah, I think if we're talking about, we're looking at about 1.5 years, give or take, for the whole implementation. So that would put us somewhere in the fiscal year 23, I believe.
very good. Are there any other clarifying questions on our forward-looking budget? Okay, seeing none, I'd be happy to entertain a motion and a second.
I'll move acceptance.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Member Medina, a second by Member Donahue. I'll turn to staff to please call the roll.
Member Medina,
Aye.
Member Donahue,
Aye.
Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Collins,
Yes.
Member Donaldson,
Yes.
Member Chagoya,
Yes.
and Member Salas.
Yes.
Passes unanimously among those present. Thank you. That will take us to item number 8. This is an update from our administrative committee. So I'll turn it back to staff.
I'll leave it up to the city manager and Daniels and Dr. Scott.
So Madam Mayor, a large part of what we've been talking about as administrative committee is exactly what you had on your agenda tonight. The budget, the solar update, and the asset management software. The one thing we did really want to point out was the use of those capital funds to make that transparent to the governance committee, how those had been applied, and then to talk about how to use the remainder. That had, as you know, been a discussion a couple of years ago in terms of the accumulation of capital funds. So that's really been our focus for the last couple of meetings. We have reviewed the use matrix, are not proposing to any changes. Obviously, it's been an odd year to say the least, but based on prior usage, I don't believe that we see the need to make any changes in that. at this time. And then, of course, your updated budget will be coming back to you in November. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Scott for any additions.
Thank you, City Manager Daniel. You covered the piece that I was definitely thinking about in terms of shared use. So I appreciate you covering that. And just want to give a big thanks to Jody for the efforts that he's done in terms of bringing our HVAC systems into a better place with the air purifications or purifiers that are happening in our classrooms. I think that'll be great for us collectively for the next school year. And so just want to give you a big thanks for that. And hopefully with the direction that we received this evening, this will help us as we start to think about our facilities as a whole with the preventative maintenance that we are anticipating through this study. I think this will give us an overall cost savings in the long run. So thank you again for putting this forward so that we can do this important work.
Thank you, Dr. Scott. And I will just open this up for public comment. If there's anyone from the public who is joining us via Zoom and would like to be recognized, please use the raise hand feature. If you're calling in, please press *9. And seeing none, I'm getting a no that there are no electronically submitted comments. I just want to thank staff from both the district and the city for working so well together to balance uses of this invaluable campus. It could have been a situation with a lot of conflict, but everyone really worked so well together to allow for school uses and for rec uses at the simultaneously over the pandemic. And I really appreciate it. So thank you all for your continued collegiality and and teamwork. So that, colleagues, that'll bring us to Item 9, future agenda items. Is there anything anyone would like to see on our next agenda in November?
I have a recommendation if no one else has anything.
Yeah, please go ahead.
We'd like to clean up the presiding officer thing where next meeting we'll bring it where, since it's already determined that the city does the May meeting and the district does a November meeting, that maybe instead of having elections, that it's already preset that whoever's the residing mayor and residing president for the board is the one that leads the meeting. So then we don't have to keep going to elections every time, if that's okay.
Thank you, Pedro. I think that was our intention last time. So let's clean it up and put that forward as an item. Thank you.
Thank you.
And seeing no further future agenda items, we'll move on to member announcements and comments. Anyone have any parting words for us before we adjourn? Member Collins, the chair recognizes you.
Yes, I just wanted to thank everyone for the amazing updates. And I want to welcome Rebecca and Kristen to the table, in addition to our board members, and thank everyone for being here.
Thank you, Member Collins. Anyone else? All right. Oh, Member Donaldson. Sorry, your hand is right over a lamp, and I didn't notice it. I apologize.
Oh, that's all right. I just also wanted to echo in about what a unique position that we've been in, that we have this shared campus and these shared programs, and how fortunate we are to have been able to work together so well to create these programs during this terrible time. And that, I feel like I've heard from so many families about how fortunate they feel to have been a part of, what we've been able to offer them. So just wanted to say thank you.
Great, thank you. So it's 7:20 p.m. and I will call this meeting adjourned. Until next time in November, thank you everyone and good night.
Thank you, everyone.